Hello, class 9. We all know that we are doing the chapter humidity. We talked about the condensation. We also talked about precipitation in our last class, and we talked about the different forms of precipitation as well. And while talking about different forms of precipitation, we talked about the rainfall, which is the most important form of precipitation. Now we will deal with the important types of rainfall that occurs on the earth's surface. So here in this slide it is written the types of rainfall is basically associated with the adiabatic movement of the air. Okay, so what is the adiabatic movement of the air? It's just a change of temperature or cooling of the air mass which has lots of moisture contained in it. That's because of expansion and compression of the air. That is the adiabatic nature of the air. Okay, and according to the ways in which the warm moist air cooling takes place, there are three mechanisms which causes rainfall. Those mechanisms are convectional, orographic, and cyclonic or frontal um, mechanism, and accordingly we name the rainfall convectional rainfall, orographic rainfall, or cyclonic or frontal rainfall. Today we are going to deal with the convectional and orographic type of rainfall, their mechanism and their characteristics. Now the first type of rainfall, that is the convectional rainfall, and this convectional rainfall, it is basically caused by the process of convection. So what exactly is the process of convection is when the surface of the earth, it gets heated up, the air mass, it also gets heated up and it starts to expand and rise up, and then condensation takes place. Then again, after condensation, precipitation takes place. That is the process of convection. Okay, so this type of rainfall occurs because of the process of convection, and there are two factors which should be there for the convection current to take place, or for the convection rainfall to take place. These two factors are intensive heating of the surface. The earth's surface will have to be intensely heated or greatly heated, and then abundant supply of moisture. Not only that, lots of supply of moisture should also be there. Only then convectional type of rainfall occurs. Now we will talk about the mechanism of convectional type of rainfall. In the equatorial region, there is intense heat. Okay, direct rays of the sunlight is there, so intense heating of the surface of the earth is there. So the air mass that is lying over the surface of the earth, it gets heated. So when it gets heated, it starts to expand and it rises up vertically. When it is rising up, it is taking the moisture along with it. Okay, and after it reaches a certain height or the upper atmosphere, the hot air which is expanding, when it is expanding, it loses the heat and it cools down. Okay, so when it cools down, then the water vapor that is there, it starts to get condensed, and the formation of cloud takes place. Later on, in the water droplets that is there in the cloud becomes too heavy for the air to hold it, or for it to float in the air. That's why it falls down on the surface of the earth as the um, conventional rainfall. We will talk about the characteristics. Okay, it mostly occurs at 4 o'clock. That means because the sky is overcast by 3 p.m. every day, so there is occurrence of rain at around 4 p.m. And then there is torrential rain. Okay, because there is formation of dark and extensive cumulonimbus kind of cloud. That is why there is the occurrence of torrential rainfall. Characteristics is the lightning produces thunder. So when lightning takes place, at that time electricity is discharged, which heats up the air, and then the air expands, it starts to rise, and the surrounding air which is in the high pressure area, it starts to move towards the low pressure area, and the air, it starts to contract. So when there is rapid expansion and contraction, there's occurrence of thunderstorm in that area. Now we will deal with the second type of rainfall, that is the orographic rainfall. And the orographic rainfall, it is derived from the Greek word oros, which means the mountain. Okay, and it is also known as the relief rainfall. Why is it known as the relief rainfall? Because it occurs wherever there is presence of mountain or relief across the direction from which the wind is blowing. Then the moist air that is there, it is forced to move along the mountain slope, and the occurrence of rainfall takes place. That's why it is known as the orographic rainfall. Now let's talk about the mechanism of orographic rainfall. Okay, first one is occurs where there is mountain barrier. Until and unless the mountain barrier is not there, the air won't be forced to rise. The moist, warm and moist air won't be forced to rise, so they wouldn't have been occurrence of the orographic rainfall if mountain barrier or orography is not there. And the second one, air mass rises and expand and loses heat. So here what is happening is, as the mountain barrier has is there, so the air, it starts to rise. When it is rising, it starts to expand, and when it is expanding, we all know that it starts to lose heat. So when it starts to lose heat, then the ascending air that is there, it becomes saturated, and the condensation starts to takes place. Okay, the other process is the same. When condensation takes place, the coalescing of the water droplets takes place. It becomes too heavy for the air to hold it, or for the rain droplets to float in the air. It falls down on the surface of the earth as different forms of precipitation. It can be rainfall, it can be snow, or it can be any form of precipitation. Okay, and there is always a variation as to the amount of precipitation that takes place in two sides of the mountain. Okay, one is the windward side. From whichever direction the wind is blowing, that side, it is known as the windward side, and the opposite of it, it is known as the leeward side. So windward side, it receives lots of rainfall, whereas the leeward side, it receives lesser amount of rainfall. Now we will talk about the characteristic of the orographic rainfall. So first characteristic of the orographic rainfall is it occurs in any season. So there is no peculiarity as to which season the orographic rainfall will occur. It occurs in any season, and it is more widespread. That means it occurs in different places, and not only that, it occurs for longer duration when we compare it with the convectional type of rainfall. And the second one is it is also supported by other two methods of rain. That means it is not occurring all by itself. Convectional rainfall as well as cyclonic rainfall is taking side by side when this orographic rainfall is taking place. Since this orographic rainfall, it is widespread and it is extensive, that is why most of the precipitation that takes place in the world is of orographic origin. The next characteristic is it occurs even if the barrier is less in height. So even if the barrier is less in height, mountain is lesser in height, even then there is occurrence of this kind of rainfall. But now instead of all the rain being dropped on the windward side only, it is dropped on the other side, that is the leeward side. The next characteristic of the moisture-laden wind is when the air rises, pressure decreases and increases when it descends. Meaning, when the air is rising on the windward side, at that time what is happening? The pressure, it has decreased to a great extent. That's why the air, it starts to expand and cool. But when it descends on the leeward side, at that time the air, it starts to compress because the pressure has become more, or it has increased to a great extent. So here what is happening now is the air is becoming more compact and warm. Last characteristic is difference in the rainfall in leeward and windward side. There's a great difference. If the mountain barrier that is there, if it's of great height, then the windward side receives more rainfall than the leeward side, whereas if it is of lesser height, then the leeward side will also receive heavy amount of rainfall. Girls, this is all for today. In the next presentation, we will continue with the cyclonic type of rainfall, as well as the factors that is affecting the distribution of rainfall. Take care of yourself. Bye bye, girls. Way, girls, when you all are going through this chapter, please see the diagrams, that is diagram about convectional type of rainfall, orographic type of rainfall as well, okay, from the book.